Let's take a look at generators introduced in ES6. The function star declaration defines a generator function which returns a generator object. Generators are functions which can be exited and later re-entered. Their context will be saved across every time they're re-entered. Let's see what that looks like in code. So here we're going to have a simple generator, const simple generator equals a function, and I have to have the asterisk, and we're going to say console.log generators return an iterator. And then after that, we're going to use a new keyword, yield. First yield. Then we're going to say console.log executed after the first iteration. And we're going to say yield second yield. And if we want to use this, it's pretty straightforward. So we just say const simple example equals simple generator. So now we've called our generator, and we're going to say console.log simple example dot next. Remember, a generator returns an iterator. So we use the dot next as it implements the iterable protocol. Let's see what that looks like. So we see an object return of value first yield and done of false. But we also see that everything that happened before the first yield also happened. So we see console.log generators return an iterator. So that's here, and then it stopped at the first yield. If we were to run this again, I think you can get an idea for what's going to happen here, right? So we see generators return an iterator, and then we see the first yield. So value first yield, done is false. And then after we hit next again, it said executed after the first iteration, and then it yielded the second yield. Let's do another example. This time, we're going to say const greet equals function star. We're going to say console.log. We're going to say generators are lazy. And we're going to say yield. We're going to say how. We're going to say console.log. And then say I'm not called until the second next is invoked. We're going to say yield. We're going to say R. We're going to say call me before you. And the last thing we're going to write is called when done. And so instead of using .next this time, that's not really practical because you don't know how many things are in your generator or in your iterable. We're going to use what we just learned. We're going to use a for if loop. So we're going to say const greeter equals greet. We're going to say for word of greeter console.log word. I'm going to comment out the first example so we don't see it run again. And we should see generators are lazy, and then you see the first yield of how. I'm not called until the second next is invoked, are, call me before you, and then you fired after, and then this is called when it's done. Let's do another example. This time I think it's important to show you that not only can you pull things out of a generator, but you can also inject things back in. So we're going to say const inject example equals function star. And we're going to say let yield variable equals yield I. Then we're going to say yield variable equals yield variable plus love. We're going to say yield JavaScript. And so this is going to work like this. We're going to say const phrase equals inject example, and we're going to say console.log phrase dot next. We're going to invoke the next because it's an iterable. And so we're just going to pull out the dot values on this one. So if I run this one time, you'll see I. Let's see what happens when we continue to mess with it. So I'm going to do the same exact thing, but this time I want to get back into, and I want to inject into this generator. So the way you do that is with the next function that we coded. So I'm going to pass in really. And we'll do that one more time, and we'll just get the bullet value out again. And so this time, what we're going to see is I really love JavaScript. And you can see that the really was injected back in to the generator, and then it came out right here. Because without this, it just would have said, I love JavaScript, but the really was injected back in. So the last example we're going to have in generators illustrates that the variables are held within reentry. So we're going to have const graph equals function star. We're going to say let x equal to 0, let y equal to 0. We're going to say while true. So this always executes. And we're going to say yield. When I want to yield an object, and I want to say x is equal to x and y is equal to y. And we'll see how that works in just a second. So I'm generating an object of two variables, or of two properties, x and y. And then after I yield this, I want to say x plus equals 2 and y plus equals 1. And so here, if I call this thing, I can see const graph generator graph console.log graph generator dot next dot value. And if I call this thing, you'll see what happens. So what we get is an object of x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 0. And then when I re-enter it, I see that x has been incremented by 2 and y has been incremented by 1. So I see x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 1. And it doesn't matter how many times I do this, the values will always continue to be incremented within this instance.